Hey, what's up guys? It's Marf and welcome back to another video. Today I have another racing game to show you guys, but you know what? Actually, this is not a racing game at all, if I'm being honest. This is Project Cars Go, and this entire recording that I'm showing you guys is just my first time launching the game and playing it. I honestly only have this footage because I didn't bother to play any more that I already did for this video while trying out the game. Because simply put, if you are a viewer of this channel, most likely you play games like Asphalt, maybe you dabble in PC and console racing games like maybe Forza, Need for Speed, maybe even some sim racing stuff. If you at all enjoy any of that sort of gameplay experience, you will probably hate this game because it takes that entire experience and condenses it down to tapping with your thumb. And so what you'll see in this video is obviously what Project Cars Go version of racing on mobile is. And I want to talk about it because it is really bad, obviously. And I want to also discuss sort of how this system is really bad and why. But let's talk about the name, where it came from, and everything like that. If you didn't know what Project Cars is, it's, I guess, sort of a simulation arcade game out on console and PC. Right now, I believe its third game is out, just Project Cars 3, and it's made by a studio called Slightly Mad Studios, which I believe they were the developers of Need for Speed Shift and other sort of realistic focused racing games. And now they're under the Codemasters brand, I think, and this mobile game, while probably having some influence from Slightly Mad Studios and some direction from them, I believe it is directed and developed by Gameville, which are the publishers of a lot of other mobile-focused games, and they're a very mobile-focused company. So that's really where this game comes from. I wouldn't really put this under the Slightly Mad Studios name more than I would Gameville or Game Evil. I have no idea how to pronounce their stupid name, but that's sort of where this game came from and what it is. And when this was announced, I was unaware that Gameville would be a part of this. I wasn't sure exactly who would be developing it, whether it would be Slightly Mad Studios or another developer. What I did know is that I had a bit of, hope for this game, because in terms of a more realistic focused racing game, I believe at the moment, while there are a couple of indie titles and things that you have unlicensed cars and things like that, from what I know, the only real big game out there is Real Racing 3, and that game, as you know, is just frankly old at this point. It's very dated, not in terms of the content, because there are a ton of tracks and cars, as you know, it's still being updated, but in terms of things like the graphics, and I think the user interface could use a lot of work as well. And simply put, I think it would be nice to have a new, fresh game of that style, kind of like, if you know, the GT Racing series from Gameloft, that realm of experience where it's not obviously super heavy sim experienced because you're on a phone, but it's definitely more realistic than games like Asphalt and Need for Speed. So initially, that's what I thought going into this, because Project Cars, as the general game itself, is obviously not focused at a super mainstream audience. Of course, they would like as many people to play their game as possible, but it's obviously not focused on what the mainstream would want, which usually tends to be more of a Need for Speed or Forza Horizon type of experience, where it's definitely more arcade and easy to get into rather than simulation focused. So when that mobile game was announced, Project Cars Go, I was expecting something along the lines of a smaller version of Real Racing 3. It's very hard to have all of the content in that game now that it's been going on for many years now, but I was expecting some nice effort for the Simcade experience on mobile, and that is the complete opposite of what we got in the end. So I tried it out. I didn't really look at anything beforehand, so I didn't know what to expect, but what I got was, like I said, for the millionth time, extremely disappointing. So the main way you play this game, or actually the way you play this game, is you basically tap and hold, and you have a combination of those things for various actions. So you tap for a gear change, you hold when you want to start braking, and you release when you start accelerating. And if you'll notice on the gameplay itself, there are these like markers on the track that will tell you when you need to do everything. There is no steering in this game. You do not have any steering control over your car, so don't be fooled if you don't see anything and figure it's, you know, accelerometer / tilt controls. There is just nothing, like, at all. You can't steer your car. There is no control. So that's mainly where my disappointment lies, because in games such as Asphalt 9, and I don't know if there are any other games that, you know, deploy this sort of method, but touch drive, in my opinion, is actually a really nice system, because for people who don't want that level of control, or who don't have the time to try and master those controls, which honestly, if you're just getting into racing games, is not the easiest thing to do. You know, I try and get people to check out Asphalt all the time because they say, you know, they want to play a racing game, they want at least a good game on mobile, and they start out with touch drive because tilt or touch is just not that intuitive to someone who's never done it before. But touch drive allows for some control over your car. Obviously, you can drift, you can use nitro, and you can choose the path of your car, which is much more controlled than what you have in Project Cars Go. And so I think touch drive is a pretty darn good system, because you can move on from touch drive to the tilt or touch control method in Asphalt 9. So that is, in my opinion, a better way of doing a sort of introductory to racing on mobile, because it's a, you know, you have a small screen. It can be hard to control a car that's on a small screen, really. So Project Cars Go just goes about this in a really boring method. I really feel like I have no control over the car. I mean, obviously you don't really have much control anyway, but the way that the camera works and everything like that, it is a really detached system and experience. With Asphalt and other games, you feel like you're attached to the car. You feel like your actions have consequences and meaning for the outcome of what is happening on screen. Whereas in Project Cars Go, because that element of steering is removed, you really feel like you're watching a race rather than participating in one. And that's the main reason why I really don't like this game. Now, there are a bunch of other reasons. Firstly, if you'll see when I go throughout the menus and all that sort of stuff, the user interface is frankly just really poorly designed. All of the colors blend in together, and so there's no contrast between elements that, you know, you want to touch versus you just look at. So getting used to this HUD was just frankly not really a thing. I mean, I jumped on the game a second time because there was an update. I didn't really do any races because, like, frankly, I just don't want to play this game anymore. But the user experience was not changed, which was super disappointing, because I would have hoped that they would have changed something, because it's very blue and green, but it's not very contrasty, and so everything blends together, and it's just hard to navigate because there is a lot of stuff in this game. There's a pretty wide amount of depth, which I was surprised to see. Not only in the cars, there is a pretty good car roster, which you'll see me go through in the gameplay, but there's also a nice customization system, especially with the paint jobs. As you can see, I painted my FRS or GT86, sorry, nice orange here. I forgot if you could put a matte paint job. I don't think you could, which is why it's not matte, which I was disappointed by, but the customization is there and it's nice to see. And there's also an extensive upgrade system, which I don't understand, because the user interface for that menu system was just so terrible. Like, I was seeing multiple things for each menu for upgrading things, and I just didn't want to bother dealing with it because it just wasn't worth it. But outside of the racing, you know, there is obviously a mobile game system here to be had. If you do enjoy that type of stuff, then this is for you. Personally, I prefer a more traditional progression system. This game has all of the mobile game stuff that you would expect. There are loot boxes, there is a ton of different types of currencies, and the progression is just really very, very slow in general. So it's really a mobile game. This is what I would show someone if they were like, what is the quintessential mobile racing game? This is what I would show them. Now, just talking about the graphics for a second, because, you know, while it's not the most important thing when it comes to a game, ultimately it does matter. If you're looking at the game more than you are like experiencing the game, if you're like distracted by maybe how bad it looks, that can be a very awful experience. And that is exactly what was going on while I was playing Project Cars Go. This game, for a game that's released this year, just frankly looks terrible. The lighting is flat and boring and completely just doesn't really portray what I would expect a modern game to look like. The texturing is very low quality and not very exciting when compared with the lighting and all of that sort of thing. And it just looks like it came straight out of a 2012 indie studio or something like that for a mobile game. The game just does not look good at all, which kind of sucks because it would be nice, at least when you're, only using your thumb to tap and hold, it would be nice to look at something interesting for a change. But this game just looks flat, boring, uninteresting, and there is no anti-aliasing, which is that thing that smooths out jagged edges from pixels. So it looks very pixelated in the distance, and so it frankly looks like an ugly game. There are rarely any shadows from objects, and you know what, honestly, I could just keep going on and on. The point is, this game looks like garbage. So overall, do not play this game. I really don't recommend it. If Asphalt 9 is getting boring, there are a ton of other games that you could try out on mobile. There's plenty of arcade games out there, and there are plenty of sim games as well. Honestly, if you're looking for that type of experience, I definitely recommend Real Racing 3 over this. I mean, I even forgot to mention that there is even a gas system in this game. I mean, it's just very quintessentially a mobile game with not a lot of depth in terms of the gameplay itself. So I wouldn't recommend playing this game. If you're that bored of something like Asphalt 9, play some indie games that you might not have heard of. There's Horizon Chase Turbo, there's Breakneck. Grid Autosport is a really great premium experience that I highly recommend, or you could just wait a while for Racing Master, which seems to be a much better experience, as I showed in the beta review video. So overall, like I said for the millionth time, don't play this game. It's not worth it. This is hilariously incompetent and bad. It even looks ugly in the menus. I just thought it was funny to make this video because just to show you guys how bad this game really is. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Project Cars Go in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.